Good evening and welcome back to Trial Watch with Demetra. I am Demetra Lit All Day, otherwise known as Judge D Lit. And we are back with part 5 of Who Shot the Sheriff. This is a legendary trial stemming from 2002 where they called Sheriff Sidney Dorsey is being tried for the assassination, the murder for hire plan against his rival, the one who ousted him for his seat as sheriff, Derwin Brown. On the stand, we're on part two for us here in the on Trial Watch with Demetra of Patrick Cuffy. Patrick Cuffy is his right hand man. This is the person who the sheriff went to directly asking for the assassination of his rival. Patrick Cuffy is the one who would eventually put together the ragtag team of misfit hitmen. Hey, C. Dupree, welcome back, you guys. Hey, B.A. Sage. And hey, M. Renee from the Cloud of You at Work. Hey, Miss Steph 219, the Cloud of You at Work. And Miss Lady Steph, you up in there cooking, girl. So this is part 2. I think yesterday, what we know about what we've learned so far about this particular witness, right, is that he has an undeniable sense of loyalty for Sidney Dorsey. Okay. Right. The head flunky in charge. But he had, I see now, I don't know why my son cut the TV up so loud. One moment. I promise you, they don't get active until I go live, right? But what I was saying was, it's very easy to see the blind loyalty that this gentleman had for Sidney Dorsey. I think one of the most standout things that we learned yesterday from his testimony. Close the. Is that? Oh, put it on mute. I thought that was your TV up in there. One moment, y'all. Thank you. Sorry, I thought that was your TV. Hey, welcome back, Captain Smith. I don't know if it may because they were some Islanders and not the stereotype Islanders, but I'm kind of getting the sense that these guys, these would be hitmen, I kind of get the sense as though Sidney Dorsey was holding out to them a promise of a better life, promise of financial freedom and status. You know, none of the hitmen got paid. They got promises, layaway promises of positions with the sheriff's department. Hey, Bird, good to see you this evening. Very strange. At one point, Patrick Cuffy here on the stand, he literally, you can see the tears all in his eyes. I mean, they was welled up in his eyes at some point. Just at the mere fact of having to sit there and testify against his mentor. You know, so it's quite unbelievable. The team of would-be misfits, their planning was very very haphazard. They went to the public library, asked the library. They went as a group to the public library, two public libraries, asked for the target's name and do they have an address. They didn't have a gun. Between 4 hitmen, none of them had a gun. At one point in time, they actually considered using a potato as a silencer. And incredulously, as horrible as their planning and preparation was, they actually got away with the assassination for over a year. Hey, everyone, welcome back. ASAP Rocky got found not guilty. He came back on the verdict before the time. So I was like, oh, well. But these 4 actually got away with it for a year. Had it not been for Patrick Cuffy starting to sell drugs and a drug deal gone wrong where he shot somebody and had to go to jail, and then they flipped them in jail, they wouldn't have been found. Hey, Mr. 219. So we're gonna get back into this testimony tonight of Patrick Cuffy. We got like 2 more with about maybe 3 more witnesses. We will definitely be finishing this trial this week. It is crazy that they got away with it for that long. I couldn't believe that, right? And then we'll talk about what trial we will cover next. I kind of want to cover that trial with that young police officer from Georgia. That was a hell of a trial. And I watched it from beginning to end before I was doing this kind of content, even on my other channel. And I think it'll be a great talk piece. It is crazy that they got away with it, especially seeing how horribly it was managed, you know, and how nobody had heads or tails of what was going on or what to do. I guess fool's luck, huh? So let's jump into it. Fair usage. What do you mean?
We then talked about I explained to him at that point that work was interfering with our surveillance in terms of I need some more flexible hours. Even though I worked 8 to 4, again, not knowing where the home were, I needed more hours to find and do more surveillance. At that point, he said, and I remember his words were, I'm one step ahead of you, son. And he said that I'm going to put you in the community relations. And
did we see this part? Because remember last night my computer went down. Remember? Supposed to be 1 hour and 24 minutes. Hold on. Let me see. Hold on. Let's see. Let's see. And then
midday,
Who suggested the location?
Mr. Dorsey did.
Did Mr. Dorsey have a business at that time? SID.
Yes, sir.
To your knowledge, did Mr. Dorsey have an office at that time?
Yes, sir.
okay, this is where we was
Could
at.
you have gone to the office?
Yes, sir.
Instead, you met where?
At Paradise East Apartments.
And did you have occasion to speak with Mr.
Oh, you
Dorsey
got it, OG.
along with Mr. Walker at that time?
Yes, sir.
Look at you,
Did you
Bear.
come to that location with anyone else?
MD Walker.
You and Mr. Walker met Mr. Dorsey?
Yes, sir.
What did you ask? Did
Okay,
you ask
OG.
him for something at that location?
Yes, sir.
What did you ask him for, sir?
We asked him for a loan of $8,000.
Did he loan you the $8,000?
No, sir.
Now, some point after that, sir, or did you have occasion to assist in bonding Paul Skyers out of jail in Cobb County?
Yes, sir.
Do you recall when that would have been, sir? Just the approximate date as best you can.
Maybe mid-December. No, couldn't. It was maybe after the 15th, for sure, between the 15th and the 30th of December.
Okay. Did you go up to Cobb County with anyone else to bond out Paul Skyers?
MD Walker.
Who drove up to Cobb County to help bond out Paul Skyers?
I drove.
Was Mr. Walker with you?
Yes, sir.
Did you in fact bond Mr. Skyers out?
Yes, sir.
Did you stop anywhere on the way back from Cobb County?
Yes, sir.
Where did you stop?
At a fast food restaurant. I believe it was Wendy's.
Did you go into Wendy's?
Yes, sir.
Did Paul Skyers go into Wendy's?
Yes, sir.
Did Melvin Walker go into the Wendy's?
Yes, sir.
What'd you talk about?
The way they moved as a group.
We talked about the contact that was made thus far with the police investigation of Doreen Brown. We spoke about, we knew that we had to get our alibi together. So we kind of was making sure that everybody was up to par in terms of the statement that was already given or the contact that was already made with the investigators.
Did you share with both Mr. Walker and Mr. Skyers what your alibi was?
Yes, sir.
How long would you have discussed this particular topic?
At the restaurant,
Yes.
the whole time we sat and ate.
Did all three of you participate in that discussion?
Yes, sir.
Was Paul Skyers an active participant?
Yes, sir.
Was Melvin Walker an active participant?
Yes, sir.
At some point, sir, was there a shootout in front of your house on March the 18th of 2001?
Yes, sir.
Did someone wind up dead as a result of that shootout?
Yes, sir.
Did you shoot that person?
No, sir.
Was that person shot and killed in your yard, or was he shot and killed somewhere else?
Shot and killed somewhere else.
Did you ever fire any shots on that particular occasion, sir?
No, sir.
Did you strike anyone on that particular occasion?
No, sir.
Were you initially arrested and charged with certain offenses concerning that incident in the front of your house on Sunday morning, March the 18th of 2001?
Yes, sir.
Shortly after that, sir, did you have occasion to go to a meeting at a lawyer by the name of Dwight Thomas?
Yes, sir.
Was Dwight Thomas at the time a lawyer for Sidney Dorsey?
Yes, sir.
Was your attorney present?
Yes, sir.
Who is your attorney, sir, or was your attorney at that time?
Dwayne E. Jones.
Was Melvin Walker present?
Yes, sir.
Was David Ramsey present?
Yes, sir.
Did you ever have any discussion with Sidney Dorsey about such a meeting before the meeting actually took place?
Yes, sir.
Very briefly describe what Sidney Dorsey told you, sir.
He had explained that all our lawyers.
Did he ask you to attend the meeting?
Yes,
I
sir.
don't want you to get into any specifics concerning the meeting, sir.
Yes, he asked me to muster up the other guys, and we cooperate and attend the meeting.
Did you contact Mr. Ramsey?
Yes, sir.
Was Mr. Ramsey still in the Atlanta area at that time?
Yes, sir.
Was he still living with you at that time?
Yes, sir.
Did you contact Mr. Walker?
Yes, sir.
Was Mr. Skyers invited to the meeting as well?
Yes, sir.
Did Mr. Skyers show?
No, sir.
Who is Mary Fisher?
Mary Fisher was introduced as a writer for GQ magazine to me.
Gentlemen, why don't you approach just a minute, please?
Y'all see how his body is turned all the way away from the defendant, the sheriff? It's like he can't even look at him. Look how he's been actually turned with his back against him the whole time.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to send you back to the jury assembly room. We're going to send in some coffee. All right, so if you'll go on back and take about a 10-minute break. Thank you. Do you need some water, sir?
And I think it's because of like shame and guilt because they didn't get it right. Shame and guilt because he on trial. Now, last night we did really good with no commercials. I think tonight they're going to probably be. Oh, no, that's the end of it. Okay, so this what happened last night. Let me see. This is where it left off last night, and it got frozen. Again, in case y'all missed it, A$AP Rocky, Rihanna baby daddy was found not guilty of those charges. I didn't follow that case, but I'm glad not guilty. I'm glad he went home with his beautiful family. I love Rihanna and her family. I think they are so cute. Dang, it's like I get stuck over here. I can't even. Dang. Hold on, y'all. Okay, here you go. That's because I guess it'd be trying to automatically fast forward itself. Okay, here we go. The next part. Okay, hold on. Let's see. Wait a minute. Oh, Lord. Geez. I'm happy to report to y'all while we're trying to get this technical delay taken care of. Rock and Apollo are being good brothers again. They've been playing today.
So,
All right, we back
Mary Fisher. Who is Mary Fisher, sir?
Mary Fisher was introduced to me as a writer for GQ magazine.
Who introduced you to Mary Fisher?
Informally, Sidney Dorsey.
Okay. And did you have occasion to meet with Miss Fisher how many times?
On 2 occasions.
Okay. The first occasion, who would have been present when you met with Miss Fisher?
Myself and my attorney, Dwayne E. Jones.
The second time, who would have been present when you met with Miss Fisher?
Hey, Renee. Okay, I'm not touching anything. Let's see.
Myself, Kima Harley, MD Walker and his wife, V, I don't know her full name, David Ramsey and his friend, Melinda Marcel, Karen Burgess, my housemate, another friend of mine by the name of Sherry, Dwayne Jones that night also. I think that was it.
The second meeting with Mary Fisher that you had made reference to, where would that meeting?
At the Ritz-Carlton Hotel downtown Atlanta.
Had you discussed with Sidney Dorsey this particular meeting at the Ritz-Carlton prior to actually showing up at the Ritz-Carlton?
Which occasion, sir?
The second occasion, sir.
Yes, sir.
Briefly describe that conversation for the ladies and gentlemen of the jury, please, sir.
He had again re-emphasized that Mary Fisher was doing a second piece on the story about Derwin Brown and the shootout in my yard. And she just wanted to, and he wanted me to get the guys together, the guys as in David, MD, and Paul, wanted me to get them together and we all cooperate and work with Mary in terms of giving her information.
As a result of that, did you contact David Ramsey and invite him to the Ritz-Carlton?
Yes, sir.
As a result of that, did you contact Melvin Walker and invite him to the Ritz-Carlton?
Yes, sir.
And as a result of that, did you contact Paul Skyers and invite him to the Ritz-Carlton?
Yes, sir.
Did Ramsey show up at the Ritz?
Yes, sir.
Did Walker show up at the Ritz?
Yes, sir.
Did Paul Skyers show up at the Ritz?
No, sir.
When you arrived at the Ritz-Carlton for the meeting with everyone, not just your attorney and yourself, but the meeting with everyone with Mary Fisher, what happened, sir?
Repeat that again, sir.
What time did you go there for a meal when everybody showed up at the Ritz-Carlton?
Yes,
What meal was that going to be?
it would have been dinner.
At some point, did you have a conversation with Miss Fisher?
Yes, sir.
As a result of that conversation with Miss Fisher, did you leave the other people who were assembled?
Yes, sir.
Where did you go?
I went upstairs. I can't remember what floor, but Mary Fisher whispered to me casually that to kind of leave without being noticed. And Mr. Dorsey wanted to see me. She gave me a floor. I can't remember the name of the number and a room to meet him up there.
Did you go to that room?
Yes, sir.
Did you see Sidney Dorsey?
Yes, sir.
Did you have a conversation with Sidney Dorsey?
Yes, sir.
Describe that conversation for the ladies and gentlemen of the jury, please, sir.
Well, we talked about the guys that was downstairs, Paul, MD, June, and myself. We talked about, I had tell him that Paul was on his way. Paul wasn't there at the time. We started talking, then he explained to cooperate again with Ms. Fisher, gave her the information she needed. And then he started talking again about the incident that happened in front of my yard. He explained that he had given me some advice that I had not followed. And we kind of elaborate on that. And then we talked about some things that was forthcoming, like arrests that was going to be made for sure, but that we should not be alarmed. You know, that's just part of the process. He was just kind of giving us a heads up. And then, of course, I asked him if he still wanted us to make the hit on J. Tom Morgan. And at that time, he says no. He said, call that off. And I asked him why. And that's when he went to giving me a sort of tongue lashing. You know, he kind of called me hardhead and not listening. And I think he was probably implying that's why we're in here, or why we're in this mess, because I had not listened. I didn't take specific orders. And that was the gist of it, of the conversation.
How long would you estimate you talked to Mr. Dorsey for, sir?
Maybe 30, 45 minutes.
After that, did you rejoin the other people downstairs in the restaurant at the Ritz-Carlton?
Yes, sir.
Was Mary Fisher at the meeting of the others when you got back there?
Yes, sir.
And was she asking questions about the Derwin Brown case?
Yes, sir.
Did you answer any of those questions yourself?
Yes, sir.
Did MD Walker answer any of those questions?
Yes, sir.
Did David Ramsey answer any of those questions?
I can't remember, June. No.
Did you ever receive any sort of communication from Mr. Dorsey indicating that certain people might be about to be arrested?
Yes, sir.
When would that have been, sir?
That would have been later on. That was in March, April, maybe May, June, maybe.
Okay. How did you receive that information?
I reckon it was by telephone.
And who did he tell you was about to be arrested?
We talked about MD and Melvin Walker and David Ramsey. I take that back. Let me go back. Initially, he had told me that Paul was going to get arrested and that we believed that Paul was leaking information behind our back, or Paul was going to be our weakest link. And I assured him that, no, not Paul. And he says, well, he explained that Paul would be arrested. I'm sorry. He gave me the heads up and told me that they was going to search Paul home. There was a search warrant issued for Paul home. That happened. Then he explained that they would also arrest Paul. He later came back and also explained, no, it's not Paul, it's MD and June, David Ramsey and Melvin Walker. He explained that they too was going to get arrested, at which time he suggested we call June and tell June to come back up here, back to the United States, because June was in the Virgin Islands. We did that. notified June and let him know that there was some warrant going to be issued for you, and I confirmed it where it came from. So we were confident that the information was correct.
Did in fact Mr. Ramsey get arrested when he came back to the U.S.?
Yes, sir.
Did you have any communication with Melvin Walker after having received this information from Mr. Dorsey?
Yes, sir.
And did Mr. Walker subsequently get arrested?
Yes, sir.
Did you have any contact yourself with Melvin Walker prior to his arrest?
Yes, sir.
Would you describe that for the ladies and gentlemen of the jury, please, sir?
Myself and Walker was working on a daily basis, putting out yard signs for a candidate who was running for the new position of sheriff, not the interim part. Roosevelt Smith, right?
Was this the special election, sir?
No, sir.
If you know.
Well, yes.
Go ahead.
Yes. And it was during that time we was working on it. We was working with Roosevelt by request of Mr. Dorsey again. He asked us to help Roosevelt. And it was then myself and MD Walker had day-to-day contact by putting out yard signs for him. Again, we were told by Mr. Dorsey that the same people who was supporting him in terms of the clergies in DeKalb County was going to support Roosevelt Smith, and Roosevelt Smith would in turn give us our job back. Mr. Dorsey also told me that Roosevelt would hire him back. He would work in the community relations department.
When you say he, do you mean Sidney Dorsey?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, sir.
And it sounded true to us, myself and MD Walker. We didn't know this Roosevelt Smith from day one. We didn't know this guy. But because Mr. Dorsey said that he's the man, he's going to be the next man, help him, everything is going to work out, I'm coming back like that, we went ahead and we assisted Roosevelt.
Okay. The question I originally asked you, I believe, was, did you have contact with Melvin Walker immediately before his arrest?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Does this, what you were talking about, does this pertain to that question?
Yes, sir. It would be.
Go ahead, sir.
It would be, again, working on the daily basis, putting out yard signs for Roosevelt Smith. MD was at my house. We was getting ready to put out yard sign, I think, at that time.
Go ahead, sir.
And he was on his way to my home, and at some point he got arrested in transit.
Okay. At some point, were you rearrested again for the offenses which occurred in March of the year 2001 in front of your home?
Yes, sir, in September.
And, go ahead.
Yes, sir, in September.
Were you set for trial in November of 2001?
So at this point, each and every one of the assailants have been questioned, have been held as in suspicion, and yet even to the point that they willing to go and get locked up, just having blind faith that the sheriff is going to get them out. And then they still thinking that once the sheriff get his position back, mind you, at this moment, the sheriff don't even have a job. But they still holding out the hope and belief that it's going to all work out. And even though they've been questioned in the case of this murder and been suspects, they really still think they're going to be able to get these jobs if and when Dorsey get back as sheriff. Boy. Faith of a mustard seed.
On that case?
No, sir.
Was your case going to go to trial in regard to the shootout in front of your home in the year 2001?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you have occasion to, prior to that time or immediately right around that time, to talk to the district attorney?
Yes, sir.
Did you talk to this man right here, J. Tom Morgan?
No, not personally, no. When you say talk to him,
At some point were you interviewed by representatives of the DeKalb County District Attorney's Office?
yes, at some point, yes.
Was Mr. Morgan present during the course of that interview?
Yes, sir.
Was Mr. Petrie, you have not, did you see him here today?
Yes, sir.
Was he present during the course of that interview?
Yes, sir.
Was Mr. Chris Harvey present during the course of that interview?
Yes, sir.
And was your attorney at that time present during the course of that interview?
Yes, sir.
Is the gentleman seated in the back there with the bow tie, your present attorney and the person who represented you at that time?
Yes, sir.
Is he Mr. Keith Adams?
Yes, sir.
As a result of that cooperation, did you enter a plea to certain charges against you in regards to the shootout at your home?
Yes, sir.
What did you enter a plea to, sir?
On tampering with evidence.
And what sentence were you given?
The maximum 1-year sentence on that charge.
You were actually taken into custody on
think he
September
turned
the
his back on
12th
his
of
own
last
mission.
year.
Yes, sir.
And have you been in custody since that time?
Yes, sir.
Have you ever been charged with the murder of Derwin Brown?
No, sir.
Did you receive immunity as a result of your cooperation with the state of Georgia in regard to the charges against Derwin Brown?
Yes, sir.
And is anything you say now or anything you have previously said going to be used against you?
I'm sorry.
What is your understanding of immunity, sir?
By giving the truthful accounts of the incident, the planning and the killing of Derwin Brown, they will not be used against me.
And you will not be prosecuted for those charges.
Yes, sir.
Do you have to tell the truth?
Yes, sir.
What is your understanding as to what can happen to you if you do not tell the truth?
The total opposite.
Excuse me?
The total opposite. I mean,
Opposite?
Okay.
Can you in fact then be prosecuted for your role in the murder of Derwin Brown?
yes, sir.
Have you told the truth here today, Mr. Cuffy?
I object, Your Honor. I object to that question. That's for these jurors to make the determination. I object to Mr. Clegg asking Mr. Cuffy, has he told the truth here today?
Legal grounds for the objection, please.
Based province of the jury. It's their decision for credibility of all witnesses.
Response?
I'm sorry, what was your ruling, Judge? I couldn't hear.
I didn't make a ruling yet. What's your response to his objection? What's your response to his objection?
I'll withdraw the question. It is fine, sir. For Your Honor. Let me ask you this, Mr. Cuffy. Were you there on the evening of December 15th in DeKalb County, Georgia, at or around the home of Derwin Brown when Derwin Brown was shot and killed?
Yes, sir.
Were you armed?
Yes, sir.
Was Paul Skyers near the home of Derwin Brown on the evening of December 15th of the year 2000 in the car?
Yes, sir.
Was David Ramsey there?
Yes, sir.
Was he armed?
Yes, sir.
Was Melvin Walker there?
Yes, sir.
Was he armed?
Yes, sir.
Who shot and killed Derwin Brown?
Melvin Walker.
At whose request was Derwin Brown killed for?
At the request of Sidney Dorsey.
The man who sits right here?
Yes, sir.
Sidney Dorsey.
Yes,
It's
sir.
your witness.
So let me ask the jury box, what do y'all think about this immunity? What do y'all think about that? You know, that these guys actually sat and planned and schemed, and they was there. They were there. And to be able to walk away scot-free. Scot-free. Do y'all think immunity is a good thing, or immunity another way, another shameful parts of our justice system? In this case, to give 2 of them immunity, I think they should have just gave 1 of them. 2 of them, that's too many people walking away scot-free for me. Yeah, 2 of them, that's
Thank
crazy. The state had, they willing to give them the 2 immunities to catch the shooter and to catch Sidney Dorsey. Not enough charges, other
For the November 1996
right.
campaign for sheriff, you put out signs in support of the election of Sidney Dorsey, correct?
Yes, sir.
You were a driver to Sidney Dorsey, right?
Indeed, ladies.
Yes, sir. And you did all that after you worked your full job at SID, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you called it, or it was known as a grunt. That's what you did. You did grunt work. That's the name. Is that fair to say?
No, sir.
Okay. What's the definition of a grunt in an election?
Well, that's part of the that was part of the duties. I don't know if you're asking. Like I said, I was a driver, also his driver, and I did some yard sales. So I'm not sure when you say grunt, are you talking grunting for driving or grunting for putting yard signs? I'm sorry. What are you asking?
What else did you do besides put out the yard sale signs and drive for Sidney Dorsey for the November 1996 election for sheriff?
Worked in the office, made calls.
And you stated on direct that when Sidney Dorsey took office as sheriff of January 1st, 1997, you came in a day or 2 later or that same week as a sheriff employee, correct?
That's correct.
And your understanding was you were going to, in your words, police the police, correct?
That's correct.
And that's with internal affairs, right?
That's correct.
And in fact, when you visited the DeKalb County Sheriff's Office in the end of December 1996, you told the current Internal Affair Officer, Deborah Jackson, that that would be your office, right?
Yes.
That her office, in a few days, she'd be kicked out, and that's your office, right?
No.
What'd you tell her?
I told her that I'd be working down there.
Okay, do you not deny telling her that her office will be yours?
No, I couldn't tell her that, no. I didn't even know what's her position in there. I couldn't tell her that.
So the answer is you do deny telling Miss Deborah Jackson that her office would become yours in a few days?
Yes, her office, yes.
All right, now, instead of becoming a investigator with internal affairs with an office, tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what your position became for the first 3.5 years of the Dorsey administration.
Working
I
in
was
the
assigned
jail.
to the jail as a detention officer.
Okay.
You didn't like
Would it be
that?
fair to say that a detention officer is the lowest form of officer at a sheriff's office?
The lowest form of an officer?
I'm not being insulting to the position, but this deputy sheriff's on top of a detention officer, correct? In rank.
Well, in rank?
Yes.
Yes, in rank it is.
There's all the sergeants on top of detention officers, correct?
No. There is detention officer sergeants who works in the jail.
Everybody who's been mandated, deputy sheriffs, sergeants, and
No.
above deputy sheriffs.
No.
Listen to my question, okay? For a detention officer, a ranked mandated deputy sheriff who became sergeant is on top of or higher in rank than a detention officer, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Also, lieutenants are higher than a detention officer, right?
Yes.
Captains are higher than a detention officer, correct? Majors are higher than detention officers, correct?
Yes.
Colonels are higher than detention officers, correct?
That's correct.
Chiefs are higher than detention officers, correct?
That's correct.
And the sheriff is higher than everyone.
That's correct.
So you was at the
So
bottom.
you held a detention officer position, which I'm not insulting you, but it's the lowest
But
form
that
of
wasn't the job
officer,
he
as we
was
just
promised
described, in rank, correct?
Correct.
And you were also stationed not in an office like internal affairs, but you were in the jail area, right?
That's correct.
And would you agree with me that at a sheriff's department in DeKalb County, to some people, or most people, working at the jail as a detention officer is the worst place to work?
To some people, yes.
And you, sir, let's talk about you, okay? For the year 1997, were a detention officer at the jail, correct?
1997, yes.
The full year.
Yes.
1998, you were a detention officer at that same jail, correct?
Yes.
1999, you were a detention officer the entire time inside the jail, correct?
The entire time, but not inside the jail, no.
You were a detention officer. Okay, I understand you got transferred to Grady, but you were a detention officer in 1999 the whole year, correct?
Yes.
And not until July of 2000 were you made deputy sheriff, correct?
Yes.
So from January 1, 2000 till July 7th of 2000, you were still a detention officer, right?
Yeah.
And this is while your father was the sheriff, right?
That's why what?
This is while your father figure was the sheriff of DeKalb County.
Yes.
He kept you at the same exact position as you were when you entered the jail, right?
It's fair to say.
Okay, and you were, to use your words, disgruntled, right?
On many occasions, yes.
And you were so disgruntled because Sidney Dorsey treated you like a distant cousin, no different than anyone else. Remember telling this gentleman that? You know who this is, by the way?
Your Honor, I certainly don't want to interfere with Mr. Steele's cross-examination, but he seems to have posed 3 or 4 questions at this point without soliciting an answer. If he might refrain.
Let's break it down.
Do you know who the gentleman? Sorry.
That's all right, take it a little slow.
Do you know who the gentleman who my hand is on is?
Yes.
Agent Fred Mays with the GBI, correct?
That's correct.
And do you remember meeting with Agent Mays in August of the year 2000?
On a couple occasions, yes.
On 2 occasions, to be accurate, correct?
That's correct.
One time
he wouldn't
at
have
Agent
moved
Mays'
us. They was saying he was
office at the
back up
GBI
all the way
headquarters,
around.
correct?
That's correct.
And one time in the office of District Attorney J. Tom Morgan, correct?
That's correct.
And at that time, you testified that never was there this murder plot hatched when you were meeting with GBI Agent Mays or J. Tom Morgan, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, do you recall telling Agent Fred Mays that Sidney Dorsey treated you like a distant cousin?
I may have, yes.
May I have one more?
Certainly.
The August 3rd statement. Do you recall telling Agent Mays that Sidney Dorsey treated you no different than any other employee?
I may have, I don't know.
Do you remember telling Agent Mays that Sidney Dorsey, when he took office, totally forgot about you and you were the lowest on the totem pole?
But I was on the totem pole, yes.
I couldn't understand it.
Repeat your question.
Do you remember telling Agent Mays that Sidney Dorsey totally forgot about you when he became
That's what I
sheriff
told y'all. He
and you were
just
the
wants to be
lowest
on it.
on the totem pole?
Yes.
Okay. Now, that was all in August of 2000, correct?
Yeah, that's about, yes.
You were so upset at Sidney Dorsey, the sheriff at that time, that you were saving up all your money so you could quit the sheriff's department, correct?
I'd like to answer and then explain. That's correct. Before I decided to volunteer that July of 2000, before I decided to volunteer, I was planning to leave the sheriff's office. I had a plan, a vision, and that was just to have some type of financial freedom. It's not like I wasn't making money there. I was making more than anybody else there. You hear? Anybody else there. But I wanted to be.
Oh, he said it out loud.
I wanted to be on my own. I wanted to do my own thing. So yes, the plan was to, at that point, was being formulated to start my business and to, yes, eventually leave the sheriff's office.
Do you remember telling Agent Mays in August of 2000 that you were so disgruntled with the sheriff's department that you were planning to leave? Is that correct?
Asked and answered, Joe.
Now, you said that's before you volunteered. Let's tell the jurors what that may mean. Would it be fair to say you're talking about the re-election effort for then Sheriff Sidney Dorsey?
In terms of what, sir? What are you asking? I'm sorry.
Do you remember volunteering for assistance on the re-election effort for then Sheriff Sidney Dorsey?
Yes.
And you were asked to help because no one was assisting with the grunt work on the re-election effort, correct?
That's correct.
And at first, you didn't come, I use the word volunteer, you didn't come forward and say, I want to help. You had to be asked, would you please help, correct?
I'll answer and then explain. Yes and no. A mutual friend, her name is I forgot her name that quick. Anyway, she came to me and she said, Cuff, I need to talk with you. We set up lunch. She sat down and she explained to me, she said, Cuff, nobody's helping Sid. He needs help bad. And you're the only one who will probably help him. We sat down and I explained to her about my plans for formulating the job plan and a business plan and to eventually leave. But she broke down in tears. She broke down in tears because she was so sad to hear probably the only person who have never said no to help or do anything for Sidney Dorsey.
Your Honor, I would object to this woman, what she thinks, what she says. It's hearsay. It's non-responsive to my question.
Mr. Cuffy,
Ma'am.
listen to the question. There's no problem with you explaining your answer, but when you explain your answer, it needs to be fairly narrow and to the point. You understand?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, please listen to the question and answer the question. Go ahead.
Okay, sir.
Everybody keep calling the judge a man. No, sir. Yes, sir. All of them keep doing that.
After being asked, you agreed to help with the grunt work for the re-election effort for then Sheriff Sidney Dorsey, correct?
I agreed to volunteer, yes.
Okay. Now, you knew during this campaign that was occurring in the early part of the summer of 2000 that Sidney Dorsey told you he'd promote you, correct?
He did tell me, yes.
And he told you that you'd be promoted during the campaign. right?
Yes, he did.
When I say during the campaign, are you aware that the final election, the runoff election, was August 8th of 2000, right?
Somewhere there, yes.
And prior to the runoff election date, the date that people go to the polls, you had known that Sidney Dorsey had promised you a promotion for your work on the campaign, correct?
Yes, he had promised.
Now, you were on track in the year 2000 to make approximately $100,000 a year as a sheriff employee. Is that fair to say?
I was pushing for that goal, yes.
Okay, and you came pretty close to that goal because I think the final number in the records is $92,000 for that year of 2000, correct?
I thought it was higher.
Okay, but somewhere around $100,000 for the year of 2000 you earned from the sheriff's department, right?
That's correct.
And Mr. Clegg asked you, is all that salary? And your answer was no, a lot of it's overtime, right?
I say coupled with overtime, not a lot of it. I don't know. When you say a lot of it, I never even thought which amount was overtime, but I know it's to include overtime.
Okay. And you were investigated for possibly abusing the overtime, correct?
Investigated?
Yes, you're aware that you were under investigation by Mr. Morgan's office for your abuse of overtime or potential abuse of overtime. Did you know that?
I'm not sure if I was aware.
I knew you were
they
gonna
were
act
not.
crazy.
Well, you did work every hour of overtime, correct?
Every hour.
Now, you knew during the time that the campaign is underway before the August 8th election that if Sheriff Dorsey did not get reelected, Durham Brown would not keep you as a sheriff employee, right?
Before when? When would I know that? Before when?
During the campaign,
Uh-huh.
you were aware, were you not,
Yes.
that if Sidney Dorsey lost the election to Durham Brown would fire you in all probability?
No.
You did not?
That was never entertained. That thought was never entertained.
That can't be true because he sent out it was already being talked about, and he sent out a letter as
Page
soon as he got
260
elected.
of the
Durham
March
Brown did,
15, 2002
with a
chart.
list of the 30-some employees that
May I
he was gonna be
approach?
fired.
What page are we
This is a trial transcript. You can look at
No, he
anything.
lied.
I'm specifically referring to this. You can look at anything.
To what, the 21, 25?
It's your testimony, but if you don't know that, the court's gonna let you look at whatever you need to look at. Just read that to yourself, please. Have you read that?
Yes.
May I approach?
Sir,
This one, right?
He was gonna get him out one way or the other.
Okay, yeah.
May I approach?
sir.
Mr. Cuffy, do you remember testifying at the trial of Melvin Walker and David Ramsey on or about March 15th, 2002?
Yes, sir.
Do you remember being asked a question, isn't it true that had Durham Brown won the election in 2000, you would still have gotten the job? And your answer was, Counselor, all right, I will say no, and I'll explain. No, because Derwin knew that I was a very strong supporter of Dorsey. Derwin knew that I was loyal to Dorsey. And I say that to say also that throughout the campaign, Derwin and I had spoken and had some brief things that were said, like about your boss. And I depended on Dorsey. Or Durham would see me and he would shake his head, like, I can't believe that you're still supporting this guy, to that effect. So I believe if Dorsey is out, I would be going out also. That was almost certain to say. Do you remember testifying that way?
To that, yes.
Now, you knew also.
So what was the question, sir? I'm sorry.
He might be fucking up his immunity. He get the line.
That's how you testified in March 15, 2000, correct?
That, yeah, I testified to that, yes.
Okay. Those are your words I was reading, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you knew that Durham Brown would fire you if if Durham Brown won the election in 2000. That's how you testified, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I want to talk to you about this murder plot, okay? That's why we're all here, all right?
Okay.
Okay. Now, you testified, and if I'm wrong, the court reporter can correct me, but you spoke with Sidney Dorsey after you were given the instruction to kill Durham Brown several times, correct?
I've spoken to him several times thereafter.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And on one occasion, you explained to then Sheriff Dorsey that because of your job, you did not have enough time to do the necessary preparation and surveillance on Durham Brown, and your job got in the way, correct?
Well, yeah, that's fair to say, yes.
That's how you testified today.
So what are you asking? I'm sorry. I'm saying yes.
And you remember distinctly today that Sheriff Dorsey said to you, son, I'm one step ahead of you. And he then moved you into community relations. Remember saying that?
Yes, sir.
May I put on the overhead?
Sir.
So that's the only way he got the promotion.
It's fine, it'll take a second.
He had been working for 3 years after doing the scrub work, after being willing to shoot the first guy. That never happened. The only way he was able to finally get a promotion was for the next election. He ain't showing up for that. Crazy.
Now, you've testified that you met with Agent Mays 2 times concerning his investigation to supposed corruption under the watch of Sheriff Dorsey, right?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to approach, with the court's permission, and show Mr. Cuffy the dates of those 2 meetings, if I don't mind. Yes, sir. The dates are here, and then if you flip back.
Sir.
Again, you can read it. I'm only interested in the date. And then there's a second interview.
29. Yes, okay. 29.
Does a transcript prepared by Agent Mays' office refresh your recollection that you met with Agent Mays on the 3rd day of August 2000, correct?
Yes, sir.
And the 29th day of August 2000, right? According to the transcript prepared by Agent Mays.
In the DA's office.
In the DA's office?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And at that time, you've already testified that the murder plot, to use Mr. Clegg's word, has not been hatched.
Of course, yes.
I understand. Do you have any defense exhibits? I'd like to show you what I'll mark as defendant's exhibit
Is
number
it me, or
29.
they treat it way more lightly than you did the lady? Well, yeah, they haven't just hemmed neither one of the guys up like they hemmed up Shirley.
We got into those yesterday, Your Honor.
Sorry.
I got into the high points yesterday.
But I think these first two guys with their immunity, both the defense and the state had things that they can question from them. I'm not saying it's okay, but I think that's what it is.
Yes?
Yes, what was your question now?
You know what defendant's exhibit number 29 is?
Yes,
May I have it back? Did you look at number 30?
yes,
You know what that, you recognize that document, defendant's exhibit number 30?
yes, sir. When you say recognize it, I know what it is. I don't remember it, but yeah.
Your Honor, I would tender defendant's exhibit number 29 and 30 at this time.
Response, what's the identification of 129?
Your Honor, these are business records from the DeKalb County Sheriff's Office. I haven't heard any sort of foundation offered at this juncture to justify their admission.
His voice is
I
so
think they've
weird.
all been admitted
Welcome
yesterday
back,
through Roy
Sassy.
Baker. I was just clearing it up that Mr. Patrick Cuffy knew what they were. Roy Baker looked at, with Mr. Petrie's permission, Mr. Samuel.
Hold on, let me see 29 and 30. Somebody give me a copy.
The judge be having a lot of work to do.
These were tendered through the state, or I don't have these down.
Possibly, I don't. Perhaps you're referring to when Mr. Baker testified, was recalled to the witness
Oh my
stand.
God, his
That
voice.
may be what you are referring to. I'm not sure.
All right, gentlemen, approach.
Mr. Cuffy, looking at defendant's exhibit number 29.
That's not a paycheck.
Thank you very much. Is it correct to say that the day after Sidney Dorsey lost the election to Durham Brown, you were moved into community relations?
When did he lose again? What date did he?
August 8th,
August
2000.
8th?
Yes, sir.
He lost August 8th?
Yes.
Okay, so you're asking now August 9th.
And this order is dated August 9th of 2000. You are no longer, you are now assigned to the community relations, correct?
That's what it says.
So that's prior to the time that you ever supposedly knew about a murder plot, correct?
That's wrong. Well, I'm not saying that is wrong, but the your position in saying that this would have been after, this would have been before, then no, I'm disagreeing with that.
Right. I think he had that
Defendant's
plan
exhibit
before he
number
lost.
30. Can you see the bottom line?
Yes, sir.
You know who M.D. Walker is. You've testified about him today, correct?
Yes, sir.
Right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And on August 9th of 2000, the day after Sidney Dorsey lost the election to Durham Brown, he is made from a detention officer to a deputy sheriff, correct?
That's what it says. So Walker and myself got moved at the same day, on the same day? Is that what it says?
Now, I want to talk with you about the supposed meeting at Sidney Dorsey's house, okay?
Yes, sir.
The night that you're handed a note, according to your testimony, right?
Yes, sir.
And the note you testified was yellow in color previously, right?
I believe it was, sir.
And it said 3 words on it: kill Durham Brown.
That's 3 words.
And the size of the paper was just like the paper I'm holding, 8.5 by 11, correct?
Not necessarily.
Well, that's how you testified previously in the Walker Ramsey case, is that right?
That's what I said, sir. That's fine.
And the piece of paper, Manfred, I'll mark it. Defendant's exhibit number 31 was folded over when supposedly handed to you. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
You opened up and read that note, and it had the 3 words, the infamous words, "Kill Derwin Brown," according to you, right?
Yes, sir.
And you then according to you, had a conversation with Sidney Dorsey while he's in pajamas, his hair disheveled, and discussed the murder of Derwin Brown, right?
We had a long conversation, yes.
And at the end of that conversation, you stated that Sidney Dorsey actually ate this entire piece of paper right in front of you, correct?
Well, let me explain. I'll answer and explain. And I don't want to confuse anyone. When I say ate, I don't mean swallow, digest. You understand? It was done in a manner to destroy. Tore it up, as I said, and chewed on it. Yes, in my presence. I don't think I saw him swallow it, and I don't think I saw him throw it away, but it was done again in a manner in pieces to destroy.
Do you remember testifying at the Walker Ramsey case on March 15, 2002?
Yes, sir.
Do you remember being asked or telling the jurors in that case that Sidney Dorsey ate the note? Dorsey ate the note. Do you remember telling them that?
I remember. Again, if that's what I said, that's what I testified to, then absolutely. But I want you to understand when I say ate, I don't want no one to confuse that with digest. I think I may have also testified that I ate the note, and I know good and well I didn't swallow it. So,
did you see Sidney Dorsey take out the pieces of paper from his mouth and put it in a trash can?
no,
Did you see Sidney Dorsey start spitting into his hands this piece of paper ripped up in his mouth?
No.
Did you have a conversation with Sidney Dorsey saying goodbye to him after the note was devoured?
did I what now?
Did he say goodbye to you?
We were making our way out. Yes, we were leaving. That's when we were leaving, when he tore the note up and started chewing on it. And this is not the first time. This is not the first time we've done that. There's other occasions, so if you'd like me to explain those two, and then maybe we'll shed some light on that one.
Did you ever see Sidney Dorsey supposedly take an 8.5 by 11 yellow sheet of paper that was supposedly in his mouth and take it out of his mouth?
8.5 by, sir, again, the note was tear up in pieces, placed in his mouth where he chewed it.
Did you ever see the note, the paper come out of his mouth?
No, sir.
Now,
What's the point you gotta
when
make?
you've testified
Crazy.
approximately 5 occasions prior to today, correct?
I don't know, sir.
You've testified at a bond hearing for Mr. Walker, right?
Yes, sir.
You've testified at a preliminary hearing for Sheriff Dorsey, correct?
Yes, sir.
You've testified at the trial of Ramsey Walker,
Yes, sir.
correct?
Yes, sir.
You've testified at a motions hearing in the Walker Ramsey case, correct?
Yes, sir.
You've also been interviewed by all the people basically sitting at this table numerous times, correct?
I think
Excluding Mr. Hodge.
Just the 3 gentlemen, Mr. Mays and the 2 DAs.
And you've spoken with Mr. Clegg on numerous occasions about your testimony, right?
On maybe 2 occasions, yes.
Okay. You spoke to him just last week or 2 weeks ago,
Whom?
June 5th of 2000.
Mr. Clegg, yes.
Mr. Clegg, right?
Yes, sir.
And you've spoken with them all about as much information you can give them on this case of State of Georgia versus Sidney Dorsey, right?
No,
You didn't want to give them all the information you had.
I didn't give him all the information. They asked me specific questions and I answer.
Part of your immunity agreement is to give all information
Right, you
knowing to you, right?
That relates to the murder of Dorian Brown, yes.
You never once have told anyone in law enforcement, since you've been cooperating, that Sidney Dorsey ever ate any note on a prior occasion. Is that correct?
What is the
I'm sorry,
significance
repeat
of
that.
this
You just
eating
stated a
note?
minute ago that this is not the first time that Sidney Dorsey ate a note.
No.
You didn't say that.
Yeah, I said that, but that's not the first time he's eaten a note.
Have you ever told Mr. Clegg that Sidney Dorsey ate a note prior to asking you supposedly to kill Derwin Brown?
What is,
No.
Have you ever told the Honorable J. Tom Morgan that Sidney Dorsey supposedly ever ate a note prior to when he supposedly did that with
Yeah,
the
I
words
would
kill
love to know
Derwin
what
Brown?
the
No,
point
sir.
is.
Did you ever tell Mr. Petrie that Sidney Dorsey ever ate a note in your presence prior to the time that you say that he ate the note that says kill Derwin Brown?
No, sir.
Did you ever tell Agent Mays that Sidney Dorsey ever ate a note prior to the time that you say he ate the note that says kill Derwin Brown?
No, sir.
Now, I want you to remember and think hard before you answer. Was Paul
Okay,
Skyers
okay,
present
okay.
at Sidney Dorsey's home when you say that Sidney Dorsey
Welcome
ate the note that's marked Defendant's Exhibit
You
number
just eating
31?
notes there for the last 5 minutes.
The night when he gave me the note? No, sir. It was just myself and Mr. Dorsey.
Are you sure that Paul Skyers was not present at Sidney Dorsey's home when he handed you a note that said kill Derwin Brown?
Counselor, I'm positive.
Have you ever
He just
Been
said
with
ate
Paul
the note
Skyers.
23rd time.
when Sidney Dorsey ate a note on his porch saying, kill Derwin Brown?
Is that the same question? No, sir.
No. Is that the answer, no?
No, sir.
You don't understand why the hell he keep asking that question either.
Now, do you deny surveilling, spying on, watching Derwin Brown prior to the time that you say you were asked to kill him?
There was no surveillance done before that note was given.
And the note you
Yeah.
testified was given around September
He's stuck on
2000. That's
8.
how you testified.
I said it was approximately, again, within a week or 2 weeks after Mr. Dorsey lost the race.
Well, you actually testified at the last trial that it was approximately,
Hold on. I'm going to object to Mr. Steele testifying. If he wants to pose questions, he may certainly do so.
Now he popped his collar.
transfer page 89 to 90 of the March 15, 2002 transfer.
Who was asking the question at that time? I never got it. Is it a cross-examination question?
Mr. Richards.
I never got a copy of that transcript, so I don't have it. So if you could just show it to me, I apologize. I just do not have one, so.
They getting testy. What up?
Read the whole thing if you want, but I'm only interested in basically the black area.
I hope y'all enjoying this easy go lucky stuff because we got some very hard hitting cases coming up.
You testified, did you not,
That's
the last time you were placed under oath at the Walker Ramsey trial, that Sidney Dorsey supposedly gave you this note that I've marked as Defendant's Exhibit 31, the last week in August, the first week of September, give or take, right?
Yes, and I'll explain. Again, that's,
You wanna explain
again, I guess
everything.
considering if that was the month that he lost, it would be 1 week before I'm sorry, 1 week after. It was approximately 1 week after or 2 weeks after. That's what I recall testifying to.
But what you testified to, I just showed you, correct?
That's correct.
And I stated it accurately for this jury, right?
And I'm stating it accurately for you, sir.
And what you testified last time was the end of August, beginning of September 2000, give or take, right?
When I last testified,
Now, you testified today that the murder weapon that took Durham Brown from us was something to the effect of State's Exhibit 89, correct?
yes, sir.
And you testified that Paul Skyers is the person to first produce the murder weapon, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you also testified that the weapon that Paul Skyers had needed repairs made to it in order to operate, correct?
Yes, sir.
And part of what it needed was an extractor pin, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you're aware, are you not, that Paul Skyers purchased an extractor pin so the
Yes.
weapon could work?
Yes, sir.
And the only reason to purchase the extractor pin was because the weapon was known at that time to take the life of Durham Brown, or intended to take the life of Durham Brown.
Yeah, that would have been one of the options, yes.
Do you remember having your home searched by the police on or about December 30th, the year 2000?
Yes, sir.
Are you aware that the police found a receipt December 30th of 2000?
December, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Are you aware that the police found a receipt in the name of Paul Skyers at your home for the extractor pin that fits a Tech 9?
I think so, yes.
Are you aware that the date on that receipt that the extractor pin was bought for the murder weapon Durham Brown was May 4th of 2000?
No, I'm not aware of that.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I've made the executive decision that we're all kind of tired, so we're going to take a break today. I'm going to let y'all go on home. I'm going to remind you again, if you'll come back bright and early at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, we'll get started
I
back
think the
up.
judge just thinks
Please
she's sick of it. I think she just sick of it. I was getting sick of his ass too. So guess what? Because now we already understand what's going on. We didn't heard. We already know what the proof is. We already heard about the things. Let me see real quickly if we can get to David Ramsey or Walker tonight. Yeah. And thank y'all for joining me, y'all. Like I was saying, I hope y'all enjoying this emotional. We're gonna eat a note. No, we're not gonna eat no notes and take no packs, okay? But I hope that y'all enjoying this easy go trial. As far as the only part that really got us stirred up, I do believe, has been Shirley McMichael's testimony, okay? Because next week we're gonna be starting the trial. It's not gonna be with any children. I'm really trying to push that back. But we're gonna watch this trial, and I thought it was so interesting. It was from that same judge out of Georgia, Judge Robert McBurney, the one that let the jury ask questions. It's gonna take just about 1 week to watch it. And it's about this senior citizen in this nursing home. Okay, so that's gonna be next week. I'm just already giving y'all a heads up. but y'all can handle it. But I think it's very much so worth talking about, and the conversation that's gonna come from it. Hold on. Oh man, what's McCollum don't testify? Oh, Raymond Davis, the dude with the long hair, he don't testify. And the other dude don't testify. Damn. All right, we're gonna be wrapping this up on time. Let's get to hold on. All right. All right, y'all. This is the wife of Derwin Brown, the widow. What you say? You say him too, huh? Let me see. Make it bigger. Nah. Let's see. This is the widow of the unalived victim. Damn, I probably shouldn't have started it with 20 minutes left. My bad.
Oh, were y'all married, man?
23 and a half years.
And where did y'all meet?
We actually, the first time that we met,
Widow of the assassinated.
You swear or affirm that the testimony shall give to the court and jury be the truth, whole truth.
He didn't get a dime of bit of
I do,
State your name, please.
Phyllis Oliver Brown.
He died 5 years later of a heart attack.
Mrs. Brown, are you the widow of the late Sheriff-elect Derwin Brown?
Yes, I am.
And how long were y'all married, man?
23 and a half years.
And where did y'all meet?
We actually, the first time that we met was at my grandmother's house. His aunt
Yes, he was
owned
married.
a piece of
One son.
rental property that was directly across the street from my grandmother. And Derwin had come down to visit schools because he was thinking about going to grad school,
And where was this, Mrs. Brown?
Atlanta University.
And when did y'all get married?
May 14th,
Of which year?
1977.
And do y'all have any children?
Yes, we do.
Could you please tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury their age and name and sex, if you would, please?
Okay. Derwin had a son before we got married. His name is Marlon Robinson. He is 28. We have Anthony, who is 27. As a matter of fact, his birthday is soon. We have Brandy, who is 23, who's our daughter, our only daughter. And we have Robert, who is 20, and Michael is 19.
And did those children grow up in the home with you?
Yes, they did.
And where did they grow up?
In Decatur at 1666 Glasgow Drive.
And how long did y'all live at that residence, Mrs.
Approximately, we had been there about 15 years when Derwin got killed.
And do you have any grandchildren?
Yes, we do. Together, we have 6 grandchildren.
Could you please tell us their age and name and sex as well?
Yes, Alaris is 11. Khalil is 2. Deja is 6. Destiny is 3. And Denaya just turned 1.
Do your grandchildren live in and around the metro area?
We have 3. My daughter lives in Stone Mountain, and Marlon and his family are in Florida now.
Did you and Derwin have a chance to see your grandchildren on a regular basis?
Yes, constantly.
When Derwin was alive, what was his occupation?
He was a police officer with DeKalb County Police. He was a police captain.
Did he work with the police department most of your married life?
Yes.
Did you work outside the home as well?
Yes, I did. I was the assistant editor of the Champion newspaper, which is the legal organ of DeKalb County.
In the year 2000, did your husband put in a bid to become the sheriff of DeKalb County?
Yes, he did.
Do you recall,
Want the rest
if you
of
don't,
his
that's
life?
okay, when qualifying may have been for that campaign?
Ambition went bad.
I want to say it was April of 2000, but I'm not sure.
Considering the fact that you had children, grandchildren, were you able to assist your husband in his bid for election when possible?
No. I was not actively involved in the campaign because as a journalist, it would have been difficult for me to remain objective. So, no.
As a journalist, were you aware of the issues in the campaign?
Yes, I was.
How would you describe that campaign?
It was, the race was hotly contested. Some of the things that Derwin intended to do, and the main reason that he ran for sheriff, because he believed that there was corruption in DeKalb County Sheriff's Department. And his thought was to clean up that corruption, because being the parents of Black male children, we all knew that it was likely that, it might have been our kid that might have ended up in jail, because we never know what our kids will do. And he wanted to be sure that not only would his children be taken care of and treated properly if they ever got in that situation, but he wanted to be sure that everybody who went to the DeKalb County Jail was treated fairly.
Did you review with him any of his campaign literature?
Yes, I did.
Show you what's been previously marked as state 132.
I wonder if she worked at, she didn't say she worked for a TV station or nothing.
Mrs. Brown, prior to the runoff, do you recall approximately how many candidates were in the race for sheriff?
I believe that initially there were 4 or 5.
And was Mr. Brown able to make it into a runoff?
Yes, he was.
Do you recall about how close it was in that vote?
It was very close. It was, I want to say it was within 500 votes.
Okay, and that was within 500 votes of him making it into
Right.
a runoff. Do you
Correct.
remember who the leader was in that campaign?
Yes, Sidney Dorsey.
Okay. Do you recall approximately how many percent of the vote Mr. Dorsey had gotten?
49%, close to 50%, but he did not get 50 plus 1.
So if you got 50 plus 1, there would not have been a runoff, and he
Correct.
would have been sheriff. Is that
Right.
correct? So Mr. Brown was able
Damn,
to
that close.
squeak into the runoff
Right.
campaign.
Yes.
Do you recall approximately when this was or how long the runoff campaign was?
That was, I know the election was in July, the primary was in July, and the runoff was in August,
Do you recall the date of the runoff campaign?
August 8th, 2000.
And was Mr. Brown successful in his bid to become sheriff?
Yes, he was. He actually won 2-1 in the runoff.
Were there any Republicans running for sheriff?
No,
at
there
that
were
time?
not.
And Mr. Brown and Mr. Dorsey were Democrats. So
Correct.
as of that date, was it then determined who was going to be the next sheriff?
Yes, Derwin was going to be the next sheriff of DeKalb County.
That's her husband. Erwin Brown.
Inflation and economic uncertainty have affected
And
all
then
of
if you
us. But
notice,
if you have a structured
because he
settlement
hadn't
or
got
annuity,
actually
J.G. Wentworth can
officiated
help you
or,
get a lump
put
sum
in the
of
office
cash now in
officially.
exchange for
That's
some
why
or
she
all of
didn't
your
get the
future
bond,
payments.
the money, like the benefits. And that's why on this flyer, it says captain, not sheriff. He was right in between. He had left his office, his job as the captain to run for sheriff, made sheriff,
J.G.
but hadn't
Wentworth
got
has helped
sworn
individuals
in. And so she
$90
ended up
million
dying.
in
I mean,
the
he
past
died
year
and his
alone.
family didn't get
So
no
why live
benefits.
month to month in these
I wonder if
uncertain
they
economic
fixed that yet.
times? Call J.G.
But you can still make some money or something, get your benefits or something when you between elected office. You know?
When I put my patients on a statin to reduce cholesterol,
Let's
I
see.
also tell them it can deplete their CoQ10 levels.
Yep,
I
that's why they
recommend
say
taking Cunol
captain.
CoQ10. Cunol has 3 times better absorption than regular CoQ10. Cunol, the brand I trust.
Yeah. What y'all saying?
Mrs. Brown, show you
Yep.
what's been previously marked and identified as State's Exhibit 132. Do you recognize that document?
Yes, this is a copy of Derwin's flyer that he used in the race.
Do you have the original of that document, Mrs. Brown?
I've checked at home and I do not have any more.
Is that a true and accurate copy?
Yes,
of
it
the
is.
document?
Yes.
There been any changes or deletions or corrections on the document?
No.
And were you able to see the original?
Yes.
Okay. And that is an exact and true copy of the original?
Yes, it is.
I move for a state submission 132 at this time.
Response?
With no objection to it being evidence, we do object to going back to the jury.
All right. States 132 is admitted without objection.
Mrs. Brown, calling your attention to the gray shaded area.
Yes.
Looking at it on the right-hand side. Was there a promise from your husband to the citizens of DeKalb County?
Yes, it was.
And what was that, please?
He was going to basically clean up the sheriff's department.
Mrs. Brown, after the August the 8th primary election, did Mr. Brown have an occasion to attend school in Forsyth?
Yes, he did.
Do you recall approximately when this started?
It was approximately the first part of November that he left to go to school.
Okay. And this is in Forsyth, Georgia, is that right?
Yes, it is.
Did he stay there on campus, or when I say on campus, did he stay in Forsyth or did he commute?
Yes, he did. He had resigned his position. He was forced to resign his position as police captain. And when he went to school, he would stay in the hotel down there and come home on the weekends.
When he went down there, did he drive his own car or did y'all have a rental car?
No, he had a rental car.
Do you recall when the graduation date was from the Sheriff's Academy?
Yes, it was December 15th.
And where did the graduation take place?
It was in Forsyth.
Did you attend that graduation?
Yes, I did.
Did other members of your family and friends attend
Yes.
the graduation?
Yes.
Okay, who went down there to the graduation with you?
My daughter, her girls, because she was pregnant at the time. Her husband went, my girlfriend Gina, and Robert Crowder, Frankie Stanford, and a number of other people from his transition team went down.
Did you go down that morning?
Yes, I did.
And how long was the graduation ceremony, if you recall?
It was approximately around an hour, a little over an hour.
What time did y'all get finished with the graduation?
It was a little after afternoon.
And what did you do after the graduation, Mrs. Brown?
We left there and we went, of course, none of us had really eaten. So we left there and we went to Shoney's and had lunch.
And this is the Shoney's on I-75?
Yes.
And after you had lunch, where did y'all go?
Derwin and I had planned to go away the following weekend. And because it was so close to Christmas, we had not done any Christmas shopping. So we stopped at the Tanger outlet and we started our Christmas shopping.
Other than the graduation, was there any other significant thing about that date?
It was my birthday.
Were you and Mr. Brown in the same vehicle?
Yes,
And what, that was in the rental car?
yes, that we were in the rental car.
How long did you stay at the Tanger Mall?
We were there probably until around 7:30
At 7:30 p.m.?
p.m., yes.
And do you remember what day of the week that was, Mr.?
That was on a Friday.
Did you leave the Tanger Mall together?
Yes, we did.
And where did y'all go from there?
We initially had planned, I thought that we were going to, one of the commissioners was having his annual Christmas party that evening. And initially our plans were to go to his Christmas party. But that afternoon, it turned out that his transition team was having a celebration at the MVPs.
Did you go straight there?
Yes, we did.
Do you recall approximately what time you got there?
Probably around a little after 8.
Did y'all meet in a private room or did you meet in a gym?
Yes, there's the club, there's a room that's in the back of the club that you can, that can be sealed off from the rest of the club. And we were back in that room.
How many people were approximately there, Mrs. Brown?
I want to say it was around 10 or 11 people.
And y'all got there approximately 8:30,
Yes.
is that correct?
Yes.
Did you have dinner there?
We didn't have
Party.
dinner. We had, I think Derwin did have dinner. I think Derwin had dinner. I just had cheesecake and coffee.
And these were members of the transition team?
Yes, and members of our family.
Could you tell us if you remember who was there?
I know Robert Crowder was there. Frankie Stanford was there. Our cousin Monica, my daughter Brandy, and her husband were there. My girlfriend Gina, and Griselle Davis was there.
Did you leave that location prior to your husband's
Yes,
departure?
it had really been a long day for me because I had to go get my hair done before we left that morning. So I had a 7 o'clock hair appointment. And after being, doing the shopping, going to dinner, being at the graduation, I was tired. So I told Derwin that I was going to leave. My girlfriend was going to bring me home. And I left and came home.
Do you know about what time that was, Mrs.
He could have got
That
killed
was
too.
probably around 9:30-ish, 9:30, or, yeah, it was about 9:30.
And you were in your girlfriend's vehicle? is that
Yes.
correct? You recall what kind of car that was?
That was it's a green Ford. I want to say it was a Taurus.
Do you know where she parked?
The day before, my mother-in-law had given my youngest son a car. And it had been sitting on the street. And because I knew that we were going to be gone, I pulled his car into the driveway. So his car was the first car in. So Gina had parked actually behind the LeBaron.
The first car was a LeBaron.
Right,
And she had a Ford Taurus.
right.
When you got to your home, do you recall whether there are any other cars on the street in front of your house or anywhere else?
No,
How many cars then were in the driveway?
there were 2 cars in the driveway.
Had Mr. Crowder gotten there before or after you?
No, he came after I did.
Did you and your girlfriend go in the home?
Yes.
And do you recall who was in the home when you got there?
Her son Al was there. My son Robert was there. And that was it at that time.
Where did y'all meet in your house?
In our den.
And where's your den in relation to the home?
It is on the far, if you're facing the house, it is on the far right side of the house, and it's directly in front of the driveway.
Does it have its own entrance?
Yes, it does.
Is this a den that may have been a carport at some other time?
Yes, it was a garage at one time.
So you have a front door as well as an entrance to your family room.
Yes,
So at that time, there's the LeBaron. There's a Ford Taurus.
right.
Did anyone else come to your home
No.
before Mr. Brown?
Oh, yes, Robert Crowder did come because he had left the celebration early and had told Derwin, because he had to teach a class because he was a teacher. He had to go teach a class. He told Derwin that he would meet him back at our house. And he had actually picked up the uniforms that Derwin had designed for the sheriff's department. And he told Derwin that he would bring his uniform over. So, after he left class, he did bring it over.
Mrs. Brown, I wanted to show you what's been previously marked. It states Exhibit 153. 133.
Damn, they're gonna have new uniforms and everything. So if she wouldn't have left early and she would have rode home with her husband, it's a big possibility she could have got killed. The way they shot that AR, whatever that thing was, Tech 9.
It's your money. Use it when you need it.
Call 87.
All this behind a job. And one that had a power. And can you imagine, like, let me just say, I was thinking about this. You know how, like, when you had a regular job, right? And you're getting a new manager or a new boss coming in, somebody new coming in that's over you. Some people, because they didn't got away with murder and they know they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing and they know they've been having it easy. I haven't seen in job situations where people actually quit. They don't want to work under the new manager. They don't want it to be cleaned up. They don't want the reins to tighten up. I've seen that happen. So can you imagine in a corrupt police department? It's more than just these people here who was dirty and who wasn't doing what they supposed to do.
The #1 cardiologist recommended form of CoQ10. Cunol, the brand I
That
trust.
new sheriff coming in was gonna be a big shakeup.
You lived with your husband 23 years, is that right? Would you describe his size to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury?
Derwin was a big man. Big. I mean,
pretty good.
Yeah. He was approximately 5'10". And it was funny, when I looked at his driver's license, he actually told the truth. He weighed 250 pounds.
So he was a large individual.
Yes.
What made me think about that was the uniform. Did you see Mr. Crowder bring the uniform?
Yes, he brought the uniform. And the way that our den is made, there's the door that, like the entrance door, and directly at the other side of the room, there's another door that leads up into my kitchen. When Crowder brought the uniform, I hung it on the door and had pinned his badge on there, so that and I hung it so that as soon as he walked in, he would be able to see his uniform.
When Mr. Crowder got there, did you see him arrive?
Yes.
Did you see, other than Mr. Crowder's, any other cars on Glasgow Drive?
No.
Where did Mr. Crowder park?
He parked in front of my mailbox, which is at the end of the driveway, to the right.
If you're looking at your home, 1666 Glasgow Drive, the mailbox would be to the right of the driveway.
No, if you're looking at my home, it's to the left.
Right. It's
To the left of the driveway, yes.
And was he on the left side or the right side of the driveway looking at your home?
Looking at my home, he was on the left side of the driveway.
Where were y'all waiting for Mr. Brown to get home?
All of us were in the den.
What happened next?
We were sitting around and we were just talking. My girlfriend and we were talking with Crowder, and I had put the badge and everything on the uniform. And we were talking about, thank God this is over, because Derwin had not only gone to the Georgia Sheriff's Academy, he had also attended the National Sheriff's Academy in Colorado and was gone for 2 weeks. So it was finally some downtime that we could get back together as a family. And, we were talking about how anxious we were, looking forward to getting away the next weekend.
Go ahead.
It started, the night it was dark, and it had started raining. And usually we have animals at my house. Anybody who knows us knows we're basically the zoo. But we had our dogs, and one dog was usually outside in the backyard. But when it rains, I bring him inside. So he was downstairs in the basement, and our other 2 dogs were actually in the den. And we were, like I said, we were just sitting around talking, and all of a sudden I heard what sounded, at first I thought it was firecrackers. And Derwin had always told me, he said, if you ever hear gunshots, you'll know that they're gunshots. After like the first 2 pops, it became obvious that it was gunfire. I was thinking that it was happening at my neighbor's house next door because it was to the left side. When and for once in my life, I did what Derwin had told me to do. I made everybody get down on the floor and get out of the room, because that part of the house is siding and bullets could possibly come through the siding. So I didn't want anybody to get hurt. We had gone, and I remember I picked up the phone and was dialing 911. My son, Robert, had gone into my bedroom, and he was looking for his dad. He was like, where's Daddy's gun? And I'm thinking, like I said, I'm thinking that the shooting was next door. So I told him, I remember telling him, this is not the Wild Wild West. This is not the shootout at the OK Corral. And he and Robert Crowder came in behind him, and they were just looking for guns. And I'm like, why? They had gone in the closet because they couldn't find Derwin's gun. They had gone in the closet and were taking our shotguns because Derwin had his grandfather's shotguns, my father's rifles and shotguns, because they were both hunters. And I remember calling, when I called 911, my first call was, there's shooting next door to my house. I'm still thinking it's next door. I had absolutely no idea that Derwin was outside. I remember peeking through the blinds and seeing a white car. But in my mind, because I drove a white car at that time, I thought it was my car. And I remember telling my girlfriend, I said, it's okay, that's my car out there. And she was like, Phyllis, no, that's the rental car. I ran from my bedroom back to the den and fully expected to find Derwin inside the house or between the two parked cars or between the first car and the house. When he wasn't inside, I remember opening the door, calling his name. When I called his name, there was no answer. And I remember I was still on the phone, and Robert Crowder told me not to go outside, but I had to go outside. And when I walked out the door.
No, that's got to be horrible.
I'm sorry. I looked to my left on the ground, and Derwin was lying there.
Now approach her.
Thank you. I knelt down, and when I looked in his eyes, I knew he was gone.
Do you want to take a break? All right.
I've never seen that look before. And I never looked below his face. There was a trickle of blood coming out of his mouth. But I remembered I was still on the phone with the police, and I told them, I said, Captain Brown has been shot. And the operator, I don't know whether, I really can't explain whether I wasn't making myself clear, but I know we live between two police precincts. It would take 5 minutes for the police to come from either the center precinct or the south precinct, which is the precinct that Derwin had worked at. I didn't hear any sirens. So I'm still standing with the phone, and I'm like, okay, the sheriff-elect of DeKalb County has been shot. Please send help. And finally, I remember somebody took the phone, and finally they came.
Oh, yeah, BA?
Did the police or EMTs get there first? Do you remember?
I believe it was a police officer first, because I remember I was standing in the middle of the street, because our street it can be dark, and I wanted to make sure that they knew exactly where to come. So when they finally started coming, I remember standing in the middle of the street, waving my hands, pointing up the driveway.
Did the ambulance eventually arrive?
Yes, they did.
And did you ride with the ambulance to the hospital?
No, by that time I had called my daughter, and she had come, she and her husband and our cousin had rushed over to the house. And just as they were coming up, a police officer escorted us to his car and took us to the hospital.
Mrs. Brown, I'm going to go back over a few of the details. Where were you exactly when you first heard the gunshots?
I was sitting in my den on the couch.
Approximately, I know this is difficult, but how long were you in the den before you went to your room after the gunshots?
It could not have been more than 5 or 10 seconds because as soon as I realized that it was gunshots, I made everybody get down on the floor and get out of that part of the house.
Did you at any time hear a car leave Glasgow Road?
No,
At any time had you seen any other cars besides the rental car and Mr. Crowder's car?
no,
At any time did you hear any conversation, communication, or cries for help?
no, I heard nothing except the gunshots.
You remained on 911 the
Yes.
entire time?
Yes,
Again, were you the first person to Derwin?
yes.
And who was next?
I believe it was my son,
Out of a
Robert,
broken heart.
and Robert Crowder. I think both of them came out after I had gone. I think we were passing each other. They were going out as I was coming in.
Do you recall what he was wearing that evening, ma'am?
He had, I want to say it was a white shirt and tie. He had, I want to say it was a grayish suit on that he had that day.
Did he have any jacket or outer clothing?
Yes, he had his leather coat.
Do you recall whether it was on his person or whether he was carrying it?
I think it was on his arm because he did not have it on.
Did you see any packages or flowers that evening?
Yes, I did not actually see the flowers that night. I did, however, see the bags that he was bringing in from the car. And they were between the two parked cars.
Now, Derwin's body was closest to the house.
Yes,
In between the LeBaron and the home?
yes.
Which way was his head facing, Mrs. Brown?
His head was actually at the top of the house.
So he'd almost made it into the home?
Yes.
Mrs. Brown, after your husband's murder, did you ever hear from Sidney Dorsey express any condolences?
I never heard from Sidney at all.
Not go what anybody else said, but did you hear from him personally?
No.
No further questions.
That's a good thing, shit.
With deepest sympathy, no questions.
All right. Thank you. Please sit down.
All right.
All right, gentlemen.
All right. And there you have it, folks. That's the widow of the deceased, the assassinated, Derwin Brown, the sheriff-elect. Okay, so there's not no testimony from the shooter and the other guy. So tomorrow is Wednesday. We'll be listening to the closing arguments, and the verdict. And then on Thursday, the last day for this trial, we'll be watching the sentencing because the sentencing was quite a show. Okay, and on Thursday we'll be voting on the next trial. So this just, I think that the trial would have went better had they separated the corruption part, the racketeering and stuff, from the murder and just got straight down to the murder. But hey, they be knowing why they do what they do, how they do. So y'all make sure y'all meet me back here tomorrow at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. And don't forget to keep Connie lifted up in prayers, okay? Until I see her and she tell me all is well, we're going to keep her in our thoughts, of course, right? So, and we got a birthday tomorrow for Miss Steph 219. So whenever y'all see her tomorrow, make sure y'all give her a big whoop whoop and happy birthday, okay? Until we meet again tomorrow, y'all have a great night. Good night, y'all. Uh-oh. Okay.
Thanks for watching. Do not forget click the subscribe button and hit the bell icon. Like, comment, and share. See you next time.